Wolverine couldn't stand the silence any longer. He exploded forward, claws gleaming, barking at Professor X that talking was pointless now that Phoenix had mastered her power. The X-Men charged in like a thunderstorm, every member unleashing their might toward Alex, but only Phoenix held his focus, suspended midair with blazing wings of psychic flame erupting behind her. Her telekinetic shield wrapped the team like a fiery cocoon, letting them strike freely. Wolverine hit first, claws slashing with primal rage. But Alex, deep in calculation, barely glanced before snapping his fingers into a cutting motion. Space Warpetta sharp slash shattered the psychic field, and a crimson singularity burst forth, slamming into Wolverine's chest with a force that flayed flesh from bone, hurling him backward like a missile through the base, a metallic skeleton scraping a burning scar across the earth. Alex's 6 eyes flared with power as he scanned the military base, stunned to detect a surviving general. He had planned to neutralize him using Wolverine's body, but in a blur, someone intervened: Quicksilver, a speedster mutant, who dashed in and pulled the general to safety. Storm burst into the skies above, hurling lightning and gales at Alex, yet he didn't flinch, instead examining his body as it disintegrated faster than before. The Phoenix Force's power was accelerating the decay, but his upgraded reverse curse technique, now level 3, slowed it just naught minutes, he estimated, before things got dire. With a grin, he muttered, "Impressive!" then twisted space with the gravity of the blue technique, teleporting straight into the heart of the base. The general stood before him. Quicksilver barely had time to react before Alex unleashed a massive repulsive force, flattening everything in its path, collapsing the entire stronghold in a single overwhelming wave. Even the general's Phoenix-boosted telekinetic shield shattered like glass beneath the barrage of cosmic slashes and gravity-bending force. As the storm calmed, Alex veered away just in time because Quicksilver was back, wielding a strange energy blade crackling with residual Phoenix force. Alex's soul vision caught the danger, and his instinct screamed he dodged. Barely. That sword didn't just cute it unmade, vibrating at a frequency that bypassed his limitless technique and nullified energy absorption. One brush left a gash on his cheek, instantly sealed by the reverse curse technique. Elsewhere, deep in a tech-drenched lab, the minds behind the Chaos Leader, Vanko, and Mr. Fantastic watched the satellite feed, exhausted and grim. Their ace, 2 anti-Alex weapons. One, the new Sentinel's already obliterated. The other, still in play, and drawing blood. Let me know if you'd like a visual comic-style illustration, scene breakdown, or character spotlight. The moment the Phoenix-infused energy sword slashed white hair and drew blood, the battlefield surged with hope, finally, a crack in the armor of the unstoppable mutant. Quicksilver, fueled by adrenaline and the blade's searing edge, blurred through space like a comet, time itself struggling to keep up. His eyes locked on his target, heart pounding with the thrill of a potential victory, he raced to end the fight only to be met with those piercing blue eyes calmly following his every move. In a blink, white hair vanished then reappeared right in front of him. Quicksilver's momentum froze as invisible forces bound him in place, his legendary speed rendered meaningless. "You seem confident," whispered the white-haired figure, just before an explosion of purple force shattered his defenses, collapsing his head and sweeping forward like an unstoppable wave, erasing everything in its path before fading into the void. 2 Infinity Stones burst from a hidden rift, circling Alex as waves of energy surged into him. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy point +1 until the template fusion hit 100%, igniting his character panel in a blinding golden glow. With a gravity-powered pull, he summoned the energy sword, gripped it tight, and flashed a defiant smile at the X-Men Round 2 was on. As the fusion completed, Alex felt his core transform, every atom humming with cursed energy as Gojo's once system-bound abilities became innately his. No more reliance, no more limits. The Black Flash was obsolete. He now existed in a permanent zone state, armed with mastery over curse bindings, barriers, and arcane techniques. As the X-Men burned with grief and rage over their fallen speedster, Alex only smiled wider. Fingers curled into a hand sign. Domain Expansion Unlimited Void. In an instant, the entire base dissolved into an ocean of suspended awareness. Time froze, thought drowned, and all who stood against him became statues in the storm of infinity. To Alex's astonishment, Phoenix and the Professor burst free from the grip of unlimited void, minds reigniting with clarity, but he wasn't shocked for long. With one wielding Omega-level telepathy and the other bonded to the cosmic flame itself, their escape was almost inevitable. Yet even awakened, what could they truly do against him now? In a blink, Alex vanished and reappeared beside Cyclops, his intent razor-sharp. Professor X, sensing the imminent collapse, cried out to Phoenix to stop the strike, but it was already too late. Phoenix unleashed her full might, her disintegration field lashing at Alex's form, only for his reverse curse technique to unravel it like mist and wind. Her telekinesis slammed into his infinity barrier, bending the void, but still he advanced silent, unstoppable. He touched Cyclops' forehead, and with a surge of blinding energy, the figure was erased from existence, reduced to nothingness. Phoenix screamed, her grief igniting the cosmic fire within, wings of flame erupting across the void as the true Phoenix Force awakened, wrathful and unbound. Alex's arm crumbles in real time, eaten away by relentless disintegration, but he grins instead of recoiling, thrilled to unleash his hidden trump card, the reverse curse technique. Converting negative energy into positive regeneration, he halts his own decay mid-process, astonishing even Phoenix and the Professor. Without flinching, he reveals his masterstroke Domain Expansiona, spacebound technique that guarantees any attack will land. A sonic hum cuts through the air as Professor X reels from an overwhelming influx of arcane knowledge, consciousness faltering. He cries out to Phoenix in desperation, warning her that Alex is evolving into something far beyond control. But Alex, now gleaming with unshakable poise, simply gestures. In an instant, countless spatial slices converge in the Professor's form fragments into the void. Let me know if you'd like a visual diagram or comic-style image of this scene. With the domain expansion now unleashed at full force, spatial slashes erupted across the battlefield like cosmic blades, transforming limited precision into catastrophic scale. No! Her voice cracked as Phoenix watched her world collapse. Professor X gone in an instant, her loved ones fading into void. Consumed by rage and despair, she channeled the full Phoenix Force into a scream that shook existence, even as her own form began to unravel. But it wasn't enough. Alex's recovery defied destruction, his body reassembling faster than she could disintegrate it. With a mere flick of his fingers, the remaining team frozen in knowledge but powerless in motion under unlimited void fell, one by one. Iceman, Shadowcat, Storm. Left with only a few survivors as tools, Alex turned to Phoenix, eyes indifferent. A child stumbling into ancient fire, never knowing how to hold it. Just pitiful. You don't understand, I'll end you. She roared, but in a blink, Alex vanished and reappeared before her, the outcome already decided. Because of the taunt, her disintegration power surged wildly, forcing his body into a cycle of constant collapse and rebirth. But with his glowing 6 eyes, Alex saw the truth. His regeneration outpaced the decay. Smiling with calm certainty, he placed a hand on her face and declared, "Too bad, you're just a fragment," as violet lightning burst from his palm, engulfing her form and collapsing it into nothing. The perfect host was neutralized, leaving only the eternal flame of the Phoenix Force suspended midair. Just as Alex reached to claim it, the Force shimmered and vanished beyond all dimensional sight, slipping from his grasp. He sighed, unsurprised. The Phoenix wasn't so easily tamed, but this was no license his portal mastery could breach parallel universes. He'd have infinite chances to chase it again. With soul energy spiraling through him, Alex activated the Mind Stone, bending the remaining X-Men to his will before opening his system panel, where the screen flashed. Template fusion, 100%. Abilities of Gojo Satoru fully mastered. New template acquired. Accelerator, skill unlocked. Vector manipulation live 1. Let me know if you'd like a comic-style visual or a voiceover script version for this scene. Chapter 73 explodes into motion as Alex unlocks Vector Manipulation LV1, granting him control over directional forces like velocity, momentum, electric fields, and more. The instant the fusion reaches 1%, a surge of power pulses through him, unlocking a new skill that twists the laws of physics. It's not the kind of brute force that flattens worlds, but it's terrifyingly elegant. With full command of vectors, even divine powers can be rerouted or reflected. As his control deepens, mysterious wings emerge, unknown wing siege form more potent than the last. Black, white, colorless, and finally, platinum. These aren't just visual. They supercharge his abilities, pushing him beyond Saint tier. But that's only the beginning. Enter the Abyss-stated Transcendent Evolution, where Alex links with a network of consciousness and taps into the power of the third tree. In this godlike mode, he summons a devastating spear capable of nullifying immortality itself. With each breath, Alex steps closer to becoming a force that even the so-called gods would fear. Accelerator's raw, unfiltered dominance made Gojo look like child's play. And while syncing with his template was a brutal uphill grind, Alex didn't flinch. Infinity was literally in his palm, just waiting to be harnessed. No fear, no hesitation, just relentless energy absorption, pushing that fusion rate closer to perfection with every heartbeat. Then came the Symbiotea beast, stripped of flaws, immune to fire, deaf to sonic screams, and ready to make any mortal a web-slinging powerhouse. But to Alex, it was just another layer of armor, shredded instantly in the wake of his clash with Phoenix, where matter itself bent and cracked under pressure. The power gap wasn't just wide, it was cosmic. Still, Alex couldn't shake the lingering pull of curiosity about the Phoenix fragment, its next host, and whether another universe's flame might burn brighter. Let me know if you'd like visual concept art, a Phoenix versus Alex diagram, or a comic-style recap. Mr. Fantastic! The leader and Ivan Vanko stared in grim silence at the surveillance feed, the tension crackling like static. Colonel Stryker's fury exploded as fists smashed the table, sending tools and tech clattering to the floor. Why hadn't their combined strike sentinels and elite mutants been enough to neutralize the white-haired mutant? Worse, why was he evolving at an impossible rate? Once unable to absorb a single punch, he now overwhelmed 200 sentinels and the X-Men with ease. The pace of his rise was unnatural, unprecedented. Stryker, fists clenched and voice low with restrained rage, demanded solutions. But none of the scientists dared speak. The white-haired mutant had outgrown their reach. Even Phoenix, once capable of collapsing realities, had fallen. At last, Mr. Fantastic stepped forward, the silence behind him stretching like a fault line ready to fracture. Want a stylized summary of the next scene or character profile? After a tense pause, he finally spoke, his voice low, but charged with intensity. I've got one last card to play, but it's a wild one. The room fell silent as the air thickened. Even the sharpest minds leaned in curiosity, sharpening into awe. For all the chaos the Sentinels had unleashed and the collapse of every known defense, he still held one secret back. And now, the truth broke free. A multiversal device, a bridge across infinite selves. I've been working on tech that can reach other universes, bring in my counterparts. If we unite, maybe we can outmaneuver the white-haired threat before it evolves again. But the catch? His eyes narrowed. Every read out there isn't me. Some are brilliant, others unstable. This machine doesn't discriminate. The silence that followed wasn't fear, it was realization. No one said a word. Stryker didn't have to. They all knew the next move could crack the cosmos. If the plan worked, they'd neutralize the white-haired mutant, but if it failed and triggered a deranged version of Mr. Fantastic, things could spiral into chaos. Just then, the leader raised an alternative. Instead of betting everything on Mr. Fantastic's last resort gambit, why not try his own? Born from gamma radiation like the Hulk, he envisioned a fusion of cosmic rays and gamma energy to forge something even mightier, the Red Hulk Project. By integrating Sentinel tech, multiple arc reactors, mutant-enhanced modules, suppression and spatial disruptors, and even Mr. Fantastic's disintegration energy blade, they'd engineer a living weapon powerful enough to rival the unstoppable force they faced. And this one they'd control. Excitement surged in Colonel Stryker, until Ivan Vanko's quiet warning dropped like a cold steel gauntlet. The mutant's growth wasn't just fast, it was accelerating. Just like that, hope flickered, and silence returned. Still, they chose to proceed. Instead of risking the chaos of summoning a parallel version of a certain stretchy genius, they chose the path of raw fury crafting a Red Hulk instead. With the Mind Stone pulsing at his fingertips, Alex summoned a portal like a stage curtain opening for the final act, guiding the mind-controlled X-Men and others through it back to New York before vanishing into the shadowed halls of Xavier's ancient castle school. The midday sun cast a golden gleam over the stonework as laughter echoed from unaware students, blissfully ignorant that their heroes had been shattered, their wills bent, now mere echoes of Alex's command. He paused, taking in the serenity shaped by Professor X's Visiona sanctuary for the outcast, now twisted under his control. A flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Was he the villain in this story? Not to him. He wasn't the destroyer. He was the Redeemerth beacon pulling mutants from the brink toward what he believed was the true path. You're the white-haired mutant, she gasped, eyes wide with dread as the man stood silently. Soul glyph light glinting from his six-fold gaze, then sorrow struck her face like a crashing timeline. Where's the professor? Miss Jean? What did you do to them? Her voice cracked, not just with fear, but with fractured memory. Mr. Hank, Mr. Logan, why are you with him? Weren't you supposed to stop him? The hallway trembled with echoes of trust unraveling as other students, drawn by her cry, emerged from shadowed room's witnesses to a truth too warped to deny. Flames roared as Sunspot's fury ignited, his molten form streaking across the ruined courtyard, demanding answers from the calm yet ominous figure ahead. Alex Locke, unfazed and silent, stepped into the inferno without activating his limitless curse technique, his 6 eyes glowing faintly. As Sunspot lunged, Alex vanished, then reappeared, clutching his blazing head with a grip like gravity itself. Why must you force me? He whispered. Sorrow threaded through the calm. With a flash of black-red lightning, Sunspot's fire was snuffed out in an instant, his form hurled aside like a discarded ember. Cries rang out from behind, grief crashing like thunder as the Soul Stone shimmered beside Alex its eerie glow, casting long shadows over the shattered heart of Xavier's school. The fear that once gripped Rogue and the others melted into radiant relief as she stepped forward, beaming. "Professor Alex, you've neutralized Professor X and made it back!" she cheered. Alex gave her hair a playful tousle and replied with calm certainty, "Of course, he's been taken care of." Her joy lit up the room. With Alex's return, the Shield Bureau welcomed a powerful new force. Mutants watched him with awe, their admiration clear. Among the surviving X-Men, Beast, Mystique, and Wolverine each held a distinct purpose. Beast's genius, though not rivaling Stark's, was more than enough to oversee the Ark's upkeep. Wolverine, a living reservoir of adamantium, offered endless potential, his healing factor ensuring renewal. And Mystique, her shape-shifting, was the crown jewel. Alex couldn't help but muse, was he too forgiving, giving his fallen foes not just mercy, but purpose? In a sun-drenched villa by the sea, Alex's interest in Mystique had nothing to do with pleasure and everything to do with potential. Her shape-shifting made her a natural-born spy, the perfect core agent for the Shield Bureau. With Beast sent off and Wolverine dismissed, Alex transformed the villa into a covert training ground where Hollywood elites became unwilling tutors for Mystique, while he immersed himself in a life of indulgence and relentless self-evolution. Amid luxury, he pushed his reverse curse technique to its limit, sharpening it through repeated damage and heal cycles, siphoning energy and experience as if farming fate itself. Notifications echoed like a metronome in his mind until bam, the breakthrough hit. Reverse curse technique, level 4. No longer just healing, it now reversed time's wear, optimizing existence itself. From flesh to fabric, living to lifeless. The power surged with new potential, reshaping not just wounds but reality's very blueprint. With the reverse curse technique now upgraded to level 4, Alex had unlocked mastery over his physical form, shifting effortlessly between youth and old age, and even extended the technique's reach to non-living matter. Standing at the edge of monumental power, he awaited a crucial delivery that could tip everything. Meanwhile, on a battlefield reduced to scorched silence, Magneto emerged through shimmering distortion, metal orbiting him like moons around a wrathful god. His arrival came too late. The devastation before him wasn't a battle, it was an annihilation. The X-Men, the Sentinels obliterated without resistance. Even Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force had fallen in moments. And from the ashes of that cosmic slaughter, one truth flared brighter than ever. White hair had transcended them all. Haunted by the echo of what once was, Magneto stands torn between rage and reason as the weight of decades with Charles crashes down on him brothers in ideology and conflict. Never enemies by fate. They had saved the world, fractured it, and still never crossed that final line. Now, Charles is gone. Not fallen by an outsider's hand, but struck down in a tragic clash with their own kind. And Magneto can't justify vengeance seno when the one responsible, white hair, wields power that bends the laws of nature itself. To strike now would mean risking everything: the Brotherhood, the fragile order they still cling to. So with a heavy heart and soul burning with restrained fury, he walks away, whispering apologies to a ghost he once called brother. While elsewhere, Alex grows ever stronger beneath sunlit waves, unaware of the storm that loomed. Bathed in ocean breeze at his seaside hideout, Alex felt his body thrum with renewed power, his recovery complete, his soul saturated with infinity energy. The accelerator template surged to 8% fusion, inching toward the moment a new ability would erupt. As he trained under the sun, system notifications chimed like the rhythm of destiny. Energy points, 6 eyes, portal each rising. Then, a breakthrough portal skill leveled up to 3. A surge of knowledge burst into his mind, no longer limited by gestures or strain. Portals now bent to his thoughts, expanding in number, size, and reach. With one willful glance, he could travel anywhere in the universe, unbound, unstoppable, one step closer to rewriting existence. Eyes glowing with glyph-ringed clarity, Alex Locke leaned back in his seaside villa, swirling crimson wine as he calculated his next cosmic move with the Power Stone. Now his only 2 remained between him and multiversal recalibration. He contemplated the Time Stone locked within the Sorcerer Supreme's domain and the Soul Stone's harrowing cost when suddenly his 6 eyes flared visitors. Hydra, this time clad in civility, approached with reverence rather than confrontation. The AI Friday, courtesy of a long-forgotten ally, opened the gates, allowing sharp-suited agents to gather by the shimmering pool. At their helm stood a familiar operative, bearing the obelisk Alex had requested, his voice steady but cautious. "Mr. Alex, this is the obelisk you requested. On behalf of Hydra, I present it to you, hoping that you will refrain from interfering in our plans going forward." Alex simply smiled, knowing every gesture sealed another step toward his fractured destiny. As Hydra's grip loosens in fear of Whitehair's growing power, they dare not even whisper demands for the Space Stone, settling instead for quiet hopes that he simply won't interfere. Secretly, they gamble on the obelisk ending him, but deep down, they know it's a fantasy. When Alex touches the artifact, its dark energy is devoured effortlessly by his energy absorption, leaving it more curiosity than threat. Holding it idly, Alex turns to Sitwell, whose forced calm can't mask his dread. With a smirk, Alex quips, "Relax, you knocked this time, so I won't neutralize you." Relief barely forms before a sudden burst of crimson mist paints Sitwell's world red as agents, gone in a blink. Then, from the stillness, Alex's voice cuts like cold steel. Too bad they didn't knock. He stepped into the shadow-lit office after a sharp knock, where Pierce stared out over the city from behind glass walls that felt more like a war map. Sitwell's voice cut through the silence, uncertain, probing, "Sir, can we really trust Whitehair to stay out of this?" Pierce didn't turn right away, just let the weight of unspoken plans settle in the air. Crossbones was gone. Sitwell was all he had left. Finally, with a weary calm, Pierce answered, "That's not the point. We handed him the obelisk to stall him. The military's cooking up something new, and we just need him quiet until they strike." Sitwell pushed back, doubt sharpening his words. "They've never succeeded before." A pause. Pierce turned, the ghost of a smirk beneath cold calculation. "Our eyes stay on Project Insight. Once it's live, Hydra won't need permission to rule. We'll have the whole board in checkmate, and Whitehair's number will come up. And Fury?" Pierce's gaze turned to fire. "I want to see his face when he realizes S.H.I.E.L.D. was ours all along." As the truth unravels, Pierce's worry over Whitehair fades into a sinister grin, just as Sitwell leans in with unwavering loyalty, whispering the chilling affirmation, "Hail Hydra." Pierce responds in kind, their shared conviction echoing through the chamber. Outside, former agents, now reborn under Alex's rising order, exchange sly glances, fueled by anticipation. With Sitwell dismissed, Alex, master of energy precision and wielder of 6 eye, summons his attire with a mere thought and cleanses the space with a silent stomp, not a trace of blood left behind. The room stands immaculate, but beneath the surface, Hydra pulses strong. Hidden in plain sight, Alex summoned the power of the Mind Stone to still the storm of emotions swirling through the starlit crowd. His aura steady as cosmic fire, yet barely had he resumed his training when his 6 eyes flared, sensing incoming figures blazing through the sky like meteors. Not enemies this time, but a long-awaited delivery. With a thought, a portal snapped open, catching one flying figure off guard. Thor, mid-flight, slammed into the rift with comic book velocity, crashing forward in classic Hammer-First chaos. Disoriented, Thor found himself face-to-face with Alex, his mighty weapon moments from impact, too late to retrieve it. Panic cracked through his voice. "Alex, get out of the way!" But Alex stood unmoved, gaze fixed not on the hammer, but on the woman Thor carried. Jane. Through the prism of his 6 eyes, Alex saw itribins of red energy coiling through her form like a star-gone supernova, its brilliance enough to burn galaxies to silence. And yet, that cosmic blaze clung to a mortal shell, draining her life drop by drop in a quiet apocalypse only Alex could see. The moment the Reality Stone arrived, Alex knew his long-awaited package had finally come. Just as the divine hammer was about to strike, he raised a single finger and tapped Mjolnir vector manipulation activated. Instantly, the force reversed, launching the hammer back toward Thor with amplified velocity fueled by Alex's excitement. Boom! Thunder cracked through the skies as Mjolnir slammed into Thor's chest, blasting him out of the seaside villa and deep into the ocean, raising a colossal wave. Ignoring the airborne god, Alex seized Jane Foster's hand, his 6 eyes locking onto the Reality Stone. With unwavering focus, he initiated a level 4 RCT, solidifying the chaotic relic. "Miss Foster, don't worry, I will save you," he vowed, as Jane pointed to the towering wave closing in. Without breaking grip, Alex extended his free hand behind him. Another shockwave burst from his palm, vaporizing the threat and calming the sea like a divine exhale. A crushing gravitational force surged from his palm like a black hole unleashed, ripping through the ocean depths and yanking Thor from the seafloor with unstoppable pull hammer and all. Even Mjolnir, that sacred warhammer, spun through the void faster than when Thor hurled it himself, striking back at its master with brutal precision. Dazed and battered, Thor floated midair, struggling to grasp what just happened, until his eyes locked on Alex standing calm, powerful, and smiling. Thor gasped, stunned. You stopped Mjolnir with one finger." In his mind, only Agoti's father could do such a thing. But here stood Alex, defying divine logic, dismissing the legendary weapon with a smirk. "It's just a hammer," he said, eyes glinting with purpose. "But your girlfriend, the reality stone inside her, that's the real deal. Trust me, I'll take good care of her." Thor's relief at Jane's impending salvation was quickly overshadowed by a deeper sting of betrayal burning in his chest. Inside the warehouse, Jane lay racked with pain, her body breaking down as ether particles gnawed at her life force. Thor, desperate and heavy-hearted, had brought her to Alex, the one person he once feared and now had to trust. Alex didn't flinch. With one hand steady on Jane, the other sculpted energy with pinpoint control, extracting the ether as it lashed out in instinctive fury. Calmly, Alex neutralized the chaos and shot a glance at Thor, saying the words that crushed any hope of simplicity. Jane wasn't just infected, she was fused with the ether, a condition even Odin might fail to reverse. Only the Dark Elves had real insight into this power. But Alex could handle it. More than that, he could restore Jane, purify the damage, and save her from a shadowed future. Thor watched, torn between gratitude and dread, as power cold and absolute flowed from the one he could never truly trust. "Cancer? Jane might get cancer?" Thor's voice trembled, unease gripping his core. Alex, calm but urgent, nodded. "The ether's radiation is off the charts, but your focus shouldn't be on her right now. The realms are aligning. The ether's reappearance means the Dark Elves are waking. Asgard is their first target. Odin's no longer what he once was, and you're here instead of home. Who's left to stand against the cursed warriors?" Thor's face hardened as realization hit like thunder. The ancient grudge between Asgard and the elves wasn't myth, it was prophecy. He turned to the heavens, voice booming, "Heimdall, send me back!" But silence answered. Nothing. A chill settled in Thor's chest. Something was wrong. Heimdall always responded. Always. Alex's words weren't just warning, they were truth. Damn it, what should I do? Without the Bifrost, I can't return to Asgard. Thor's voice cracked with dread, panic flaring in his eyes as the weight of a fallen realm threatened to crush his spirit until a firm hand landed on his shoulder like a thunderclap from fate itself. Spinning, he found Alex. Calm and unreadable, echoing a gesture Thor once used to rattle Loki. But the tables had turned. "I can get you back to Asgard," Alex said, his tone slicing through the chaos. "And help repel the Dark Elves, but when it's over, you owe me the Casket of Ancient Winters, the Eternal Flame, and the Infinity Gauntlet." No hesitation, no doubt. Thor agreed with the fire of desperation, sealing a pact forged in urgency. Alex's grin widened, not from malice, but calculation. He knew Odin still pulsed with latent fury, his body a fragile shell barely containing the storm within. Old and motionless didn't mean weak, in fact. At the edge of life, Odin was more dangerous than ever. If he moved, he would burn out, but not before releasing a cosmic detonation capable of humbling even the Sorcerer Supreme. Alex had no plans to steal from Asgard, not when strategy paid better than conquest. Thor locked his eyes on Alex, curious how this mysterious guy would help him get back to Asgard. But what happened next blew his mind. Alex reached out, barely brushing the air, and a blazing portal burst to life in front of them. Thor froze, recognizing the very same portal he'd seen earlier, and beyond it shimmered the unmistakable glow of the Bifrost. He never imagined a portal could stretch across space like that, fast, clean, and smoother than even Asgard's own cosmic bridge. Alex didn't even need to be there before. Just a movie image was enough for his level 3 portal to punch through the cosmos. And when he hit level 4, he wouldn't even need an image, just a thought, and boom, destination locked. Soon, Stryker's hiding days would be over. Without hesitation, Alex stepped through the fiery portal, bringing Jane Foster along, and landed smack in the middle of Asgard's chaos. The Golden City was under siege. Dark elves with gray skin and wicked ears clashed with Asgardian warriors, while prisoners from the dungeons ran wild. At the Bifrost, Heimdall was overwhelmed, locked in combat with a swarm of Dark Elves, unable to open the bridge or answer Thor's call. As the portal ignites with a radiant blaze, every warrior on the battlefield turns swords gripped, breaths held uncertain if hope or havoc is stepping through. First emerged two unfamiliar figures, their presence like static against the fabric of the Nine Realms, and time itself pauses. But when the Hammerbearer follows, thunder crashes through the silence as Asgardian voices rise in electrified unison. Thor! 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 Shadows fall across the enemy ranks as fear creeps into their bones. This is no ordinary ally, but one dark elf, massive and unshaken, storms forward, defiance etched in every step. The impact is instant, Thor. The thunder, the myth, is hurled aside like a comet smashed from orbit. With venom and arrogance, the dark elf spits, his voice cutting through the air like steel. A thunder god and two trembling Midgardians, nothing but noise. The dark elves roared Curse's name like a battle chant, their voices booming through the chaos. But Alex wasn't fazed, in fact. A knowing grin crept across his face. With a flick of his free hand, crimson and obsidian lightning cracked into existence, rippling with raw power. Space warped like a comic book panel tearing open, and Alex, with Jane at his side, teleported straight into the fray. The cursed warrior barely had time to react this eyes wide as Alex's palm birthed a swirling black and red singularity aimed straight at him. Confident in his monstrous strength, the warrior braced himself, believing no mere earthborn could rival the might of gods. But as the singularity struck, his arrogance shattered literally. His reinforced arms crumbled like brittle stone under the crushing force, chunks of flesh and armor falling away. The singularity kept coming, unstoppable, racing straight for his skull like the final panel of an inevitable clash. Boom! The cursed warrior jerked his head to dodge, but the black and red singularity still clipped him, disintegrating half his skull into dust. The blast sent him flying, crashing into the waters beneath the Rainbow Bridge, away from the terrifying Midgardian. The whole battlefield froze. Asgardians, dark elves, all eyes locked onto the white-haired figure standing tall on the bridge. Shock rippled through the ranks. Was this really one of those so-called weak Midgardians? How could anyone from that world wield such raw, cosmic force? Jane Foster, caught in the chaos, finally processed what happened, her scream slicing through the silence. But Alex? Cool, calculated, done with, the noise's power reached out, twisting the air itself, silencing her voice with a flicker of unseen vectors. The cursed warrior burst from the waves, fleeing across the shattered horizon, but Alex's grin cut sharper than a blade. His hand rose, and the gravity twisted like a cosmic snare, yanking the dark elf midair. One glance was all it took for the cursed warrior to taste the brutal truth. He wasn't just outmatched, he was cosmic dust compared to the Midgardian's might. Panic flared, he had to warn his people. Warn Malekith their fragile plans couldn't survive a force like this. Bounding across the seascape with desperate speed, he surged toward the shadowed edges of Asgard. But fate had other plans. The moment he touched land, an invisible fist clamped around him, dragging him backward like a marionette in a cruel play. His head snapped around, and despair carved deep across his face. The white-haired Midgardian stood there, hand outstretched, reality bending to his will. A crushing gravitational force erupted from the Midgardian's hand, dragging his opponent backward with unstoppable might. Even as he clawed at the shattered ground, ripping deep trenches into the hardened Rainbow Bridge, resistance was futile, the pull only intensified. His footing vanished, his body hurled helplessly into the air. In a last-ditch effort, he unleashed all his strength in a desperate strike. But it was too late. The Midgardian conjured another swirling black and crimson singularity, hurling it with pinpoint precision. There was no escape, only the creeping certainty of defeat as the sphere closed in. Boom! The singularity erupted, collapsing the cursed warrior's body and leaving a wake of devastation behind. Under flawless control, the black and red force tore through enemy lines, fragmenting Dark Elf after Dark Elf before vanishing into the abyss beyond Asgard. Thunderstruck, Thor could only stare how had the Midgardian grown so much stronger in so little time. Once powerful, now nearly unstoppable, even the mighty cursed warrior, feared by all, proved no match. An ordinary-looking Midgardian, yet with a flick, he neutralized his foe without a trace, like the shadows themselves obeyed him. Ignoring the minor threats around, Alex locked eyes with Thor, who was barely steady on his feet, and shouted, "Move it now!" Without hesitation, Alex grabbed Jane and charged into the chaos. But Asgard wasn't the battleground he expected. The Dark Elves had brought more than one cursed warrior. Just within the sweep of his 6 eyes, Alex spotted 5 of those monsters. Not that it shook him. He knew this universe wasn't the movie seat, it was a parallel branch of the Marvel multiverse, and in this playground of infinite possibilities, nothing fazed him. With his spell Blue now at level 4, space itself folded like paper in his hands. Wrapped in his power, Jane could survive the pressure of dimensional warping. Like a phantom in the storm, Alex blinked across the battlefield, his figure vanishing and reappearing in flashes of blue light. Each time he materialized, Dark Elves within 5 meters were silently fragmented by invisible spatial blades, collapsing like marionettes with their strings cut. The whole field froze in terror, their eyes locked on Alex. And as the carnage unfolded, the elves' fear boiled over in a desperate cry. "No! He's a demon! We can't possibly defeat him!" the Dark Elves screamed, scattering in terror, but no one could outrun fate. Alex blinked through space like a phantom blade, neutralizing every fleeing foe with silent precision. Chaos erupted as he moved like a living storm, folding shadows into oblivion. Then, with a rumble of lightning, Thor arrived, stunned to find the battlefield already silenced. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, Alex's warning rang out. "Stand firm!" Reality, twisted space collapsed under crushing gravity, and in a flash, they were transported into a lavish chamber where time seemed frozen, and in its heart, a grim sight. Thor's mother gasping for air, gripped by a curse warrior as destiny cracked open once more. "Mother!" The cry shatters the air as Thor charges in, fury blazing, Mjolnir streaking through the dark like thunder, incarnately to be dismissed like a toy by the curse warrior's brutal swipe. Crashing into the palace wall moments later, Thor's shock is absolute as indomitable hammer, denied not once, but twice in a single day, a cosmic impossibility in his 5 millennia of battle. As the echoes of impact settle, Malekith turns, gaze locking not on Frigga, but on Jane Foster beside Alex, eyes gleaming with obsession. "Ether, you've returned," he whispers, voice dripping with triumph, yet something's off. The Ether, the Reality Stone's pulsing chaos, lies dormant, inert, useless to the Dark Elves' plan to drown the 9 realms in eternal shadow. Malekith's eyes narrowed as he noticed something strange the Ether, once wild and untamed, now dormant and solid, right where Alex's hand met hers. His snarl cut the tension like a blade. "Human, whatever you done to it!" But Alex stood unfazed, rage flared. "Crush him! Tear him down to the last fragment! Bring the girl to me!" One of the brutal curse warriors lunged at Thor, slamming him into the ground, blow after blow, dimming the thunder god's spark. The rest surged toward Alex, armor blazing with molten fury, convinced he was nothing, just a flicker against the cosmic dart. In their eyes, only one name still commanded fear in the 9 realms, and Odin was fading into myth. But they underestimated the quiet storm gathering in that human soul. Malekith sneered, blind to the fracture forming in fate itself. He didn't see the equation rewriting right before his eyes. Frigga's urgent cry shattered the chaos. "Young man, run quickly, inform Odin, and have him come save us!" But fate had no patience. A curse warrior lunged, hand outstretched, ready to break Alex down to his last bone until thunder answered. A sonic boom cracked the air, and Alex vanished in a blaze of motion, tearing through enchanted walls and reappearing with lightning's fury. Silence followed shocked stares, met the storm-scarred ground where black-red bolts danced. He rose, unbothered, brushed aside one attacker like dust, then turned to the Dark Elf leader. "So you said you wanted to crush my bones piece by piece? That's not a good way to torment someone. I have a better method. Would you like to try it?" His words weren't a question, they were a sentence. It wasn't authority, it was judgment, absolute and thunderous. The kind that crackles through the air like divine retribution. Alex stood unmoved, his presence a challenge in itself, while Malekith's pride shattered under the weight of it. This Earthling wasn't just powerful, he was beyond classification, defying every dark expectation. But Malekith, cold and calculating, still believed brute force would prevail. With a barked order, his elite curse warriors surged forward, fists howling like sonic meteors. One blow ruptured the sound barrier, the battlefield exploding into chaos. Even the warrior crushing Thor turned, drawn to this new force, giving Thor a moment of breath. As Thor shielded Frigga, his gaze stayed locked on Alex because against 4 foes this fierce, not even a god could survive. Thor doubted Alex could survive, let alone win, but hope clung to the arrival of his father as their last chance. Thor, still unawakened as a god of thunder, misjudged the gulf between them. He thought Alex just slightly outclassed the curse warriors, but reality cracked that illusion wide open. Their attacks froze midair, 5 meters from Alex, powerless to reach him. Then Alex vanished reappeared, and with a single finger to a curse warrior's forehead, unleashed vector and repulsion forces so immense that the warrior's head shattered like brittle fruit. Shock rippled through the remaining foes. Why could this Midgardian unravel them so easily? While they hesitated, Alex didn't. He stepped forward, face to face with a cursed warrior. His hand clamped down in a flash hand in that instant. Red and black lightning erupted, vaporizing the enemy's head into crackling void. One breath later, the battlefield dropped to 2. The remaining warriors froze, realization crashing like thunder. This wasn't some weak Midgardian. This was a walking apocalypse. No contest. The sheer imbalance was undeniable. A cosmic mismatch so vast they doubted even Odin could pull it off. Panic took hold down. Warrior bolted, dragging Malekith through a wall and toward escape, while the other, banking on tech over hope, hurled a black hole grenade straight at Alex. Forged by the Dark Elves, this miniature singularity was nightmare, incarnate imploding gravity in a blink, able to erase even gods. The cursed warrior gripped the black hole grenade, the Dark Elves' deadliest weapon next to the Aether, and charged into the impossible strait toward the Midgardian. He knew full well the grenade might not finish the job, but if he could just get close enough, it could wound him badly. Teeth clenched, heart pounding, he pierced the 5-meter shield that had made their mission seem hopeless. As the defense flickered out, his eyes lit with manic triumphus was the moment. He lunged, arm outstretched, detonating the grenade at near point-blank range. Space twisted, his arm shredded by the blast fury, but he didn't flinch. This was glory, sacrifice, honor. Even as he stared death in the face, he smiled, hoping to drag the Midgardian with him. But the Midgardian Alex barely glanced at him. His focus locked instead on the expanding singularity ahead, a growing tear in reality that could consume everything. Time warped under Alex's level 4 6 ice each moment, stretching like a blade drawn mid-battle, senses flaring as danger slowed the world to a crawl. Reflexes ignited, he moved through frozen chaos, a skill once reserved for speedsters, now second nature since unlocking that eerie sixth perception. The black hole spiraled, devouring the cursed warrior's limbs, gravitational fury threatening to consume everything, but Alex stood resolute. Alone, he could have withstood the collapse, but with Thor, Jane, and others vulnerable nearby, he had no choice. Jane's bond with the ether was unstable. Her end could trigger something far worse. Deactivating Limitless, Alex let the cursed warrior close, channeling vector manipulation to absorb the black hole's energy, his power flaring with each pulse. Energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1 until the anomalies shrank, reality stabilizing in the span of a heartbeat. He flashed a seal and unleashed the hollow technique. Purple. A storm surged into being, swirling with a blue-black hole and crimson singularity that collided into a pulsing violet energy mass crackling with lightning. That mass twisted under his control, warping into a titanic spectral sword stretching hundreds of meters. With one swing, Alex cleaved through the Dark Elf warship like paper, splitting it in half and simultaneously erasing the twin cursed warriors in its path. Only one figure remained. Spared by sheer height watching in stunned silence as Alex approached, smile, calm and chilling, whispering through the hum of cosmic power, "Let me show you what real existential limbo feels like."